So anyway, welcome everyone to this month's meeting of the Voter Education Outreach Advisory Committee. I'm Diane Leeds with San Francisco Peninsula People Power. And let's see we'll start off with some introductions. And I think what we'll do today is have folks put their information in the chat. So again, if you could say, who your name, what organization you're with, and because this is probably going to be the last VEOAC before we take a break, the question of the day is, what are you most looking forward to for this summer? So I will take advantage of being one of the co-hosts to give my answers live. So again, I introduce myself, and the thing I'm looking forward to most this summer is fresh tomatoes from my garden. So Yahira, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. My name is Yahira Ortega. I'm with Thrive Alliance. I have a lot to look forward to this summer, but something really silly that I want to do is just have a picnic on the grass and play some games and eat some cheeses and crackers, like very simple fruit things. So that's what I'm looking forward to, enjoying the sun, being out in the sun. And because of that, I want you all to meet someone new from our team. I will let him introduce himself, but this person has been working with me over almost a year, and maybe you've seen him in person or virtually, but he can tell you more about uh, his work here with Thrive and his role. Go ahead, Sky, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Sky Hathaway. I'm coming into Thrive in a new role as a policy and advocacy coordinator, and I'm going to be picking up a lot of the things that Shira is working on, um, such as organizing these things, and I'm leading the coordination of the translation hub. If any of you have used that, which I think some of you probably have, um, as well as doing the policy and advocacy newsletter, which I hope many of you take a look at, and a few other projects. So I'll be here for a while. Let me know if you have any questions or need any support with anything. And this summer, I'm really looking forward to moving to San Francisco. I live in the peninsula, further down in the peninsula right now, and I'm looking forward to being in the city.
Awesome. Diane, if I may, I do think that so I actually will be on leave for the next couple months. That's why Sky is stepping in for a little bit. And if there are any questions during the summer, please contact Sky. And I also love to introduce Irma, who's on the call, because Irma will be overseeing some of the things that Sky does. So if you have any questions, please forward them to Sky and Irma, and they're happy to put in their emails in the chat. While I'm away, I will be back before you all get together again for some upcoming programming.
So Sky, can you put up start sharing your screen? Okay, so it's basically, I'm just going to briefly go over the agenda. Obviously, we've had the welcome. And then next up will be Jim Irizarry, our favorite speaker every time we meet, who'll give us an update on different legislation that might be impacting folks voting. And then we have a special presentation by Eric Forgard about county and city governance. With a presentation as well as some questions. So again, as we've said we're taking the summer off as we have in the past when there isn't a major election in November. So our next meeting date will be in September 2025, probably on a Wednesday morning, a date to be determined. Next slide. I think. Is that it? Okay, I already forgot the order of the slides. Okay, so again, if I can just turn things over to Jim, if you could unmute and tell us what's going on in the elections office.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and good morning, Diane. Thank you for those kind words. Really appreciate that because it's my favorite group to make presentations to. there's a lot going on in elections, to say the least. And so I'm going to bring up a little PowerPoint here that'll just help my thoughts flow a little bit better and share them with you. We've got a lot on our plate, even though it's theoretically downtime in elections, but there is no downtime in elections. As you know, we just completed the sheriff's charter amendment election. We've got a couple of Pacific recall elections going on, not to mention beginning preparations for the June 2nd statewide primary election in January. So, but let me just kind of give an overview of some of the highlights that we're really dealing with that are really changing, have the potential to change the landscape moving forward into elections for this coming year and in years to come. So if I can go to the first slide. You know, on March 25th, 2025, President Trump signed the presidential order, executive order on the integrity of elections. A lot is compacted in that particular executive order. It is currently being litigated. We'll cover a little bit on the litigation that is occurring. San Mateo County has filed an amicus brief to be part of those lawsuits that are right now contesting the executive order's authority on constitutional grounds. But nonetheless, a presidential executive order has the force of law. So there are lots of issues with respect to that. Of course, you have the Department of Justice enforcing that. You have other federal agencies that are enforcing the executive order, but it has been put on stay right now as a result of some of the lawsuits. We'll also be covering the Safeguard on American Voter Eligibility Act, which is, again, very similar to the executive order, contains a lot of the provisions, and that's being pushed by Congress at this stage of the game, has not been reviewed by the Senate, and it has a very high threshold there for passage, but we'll cover that also briefly. Just give you a real brief overview on legislative bills that are being followed and monitoring. We're in that limbo session right now that we have numerous bills that are being tracked by the CACEO, and we'll just give you a real brief overview on that because there's too many to get into it, but there's some significant ones that can actually impact operations significantly. We're in the middle of a Pacifica School District recall election, and the notice of intention has been filed, and so we're in the process of processing that particular recall, and once all of the papers are properly submitted and executed, then the recall election will proceed. And then, again, just a general overview on some of the election activities, which is basically preparing for the June 2nd, 2026 statewide primary election. We're doing a lot of stuff in the elections office and preparing for that. But let's get into just real quick, and there's nothing really quick about this. On our next slide, we'll cover the presidential executive order. And I hit some highlights here, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. A basic overview. It expands the executive branch's authority over federal elections and over the states, particularly in the administration of federal elections. It reshapes how states administer their electoral process. It substantially impacts vote-by-mail elections, particularly in San Mateo County as it relates to the California Voters' Choice Act. It will potentially require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship before registering for federal elections. The executive order, as has been promulgated and is issued, has the potential to increase voter confusion, has the potential of reducing voter registration, and also the potential for disenfranchising literally millions of voters throughout the United States. Hence, a lot of the lawsuits that have been filed by states because of the concern of the disfranchisement of voters. It imposes a tremendous amount of administrative responsibilities on local and state offices that are unfunded. And get into the detail, I mean, several pages of the executive order, but we will have quite a bit of responsibility that comes under the act that we are not currently doing. The other areas that are important to just be aware of, it increases monitoring and maintenance of records and voter lists, not only by us and our requirements, which we normally do anyway, but it now imposes other federal agencies that will be looking at those lists, from the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, State Department, DOJ. All of them will be looking at the voter registration files and voter maintenance lists as they move forward. And we will have access to their data sources to be able to determine the citizenship status of registered voters in our system. Anyway, it goes on and it provides, again, pretty major, because we haven't had this type of overview, and it's the Department of Justice and State Department monitoring of voter registration files and immigration status. As mentioned, that's right now it's working its way through to being able to be understood what that means. But if you take it as written, there is a tremendous amount of work that's going to result from that. For example, state and local election officials will be required to determine the citizenship status of every registered voter. Okay, so we have 440,000 registered voters. So we will have to determine that and do a review to determine if every voter that is registered has documentary proof of citizenship status, and documentary proof of citizenship status is defined by the federal government as certain pieces of identification: birth certificate, passport, state-issued IDs that refer to citizenship status or that provide that information. And those have to be produced at the time of registration, and also have to be produced by the local election official as part of the overall audit of our systems that we're going to have to go through to determine that every voter does have that documentary proof of citizenship status. It is an incredible burden on local election officials that will put on our shoulders. And so we're very, very concerned about that and the associated costs that go along with that, because there is no funding that goes with that. Let me see, all of a sudden, okay. It also provides for prosecution violations of the executive order and election crimes, not only of voters, but also of election officials that don't necessarily follow the order and, for example, allow a non-citizen to vote. Again, there can be mistakes made and you'll be okay, but if there's an intentional and willful violation of that act, there will be criminal prosecution of the actual election official. This is a big one too. It prohibits non-citizen involvement in the conduct of any federal election. So that means you have to be a citizen to work in elections, to work in the administration of elections. So as read right now, green card holders, non-citizens would not be able to be involved in the conduct of any federal election. And there's also prohibitions to donations from non-citizens in the federal election process. The big one is it also withholds federal funding for non-compliance with the executive order. So federal funds that are at stake are potentially in jeopardy. The big ones for us, of course, is we do get funding for replacement of election systems to the tune of millions of dollars. Last one was over $4 million. And we get HAVA funds for a variety of other activities, from assistance with vote centers, ADA, and election security. All of those federal funds would be in jeopardy if you don't comply with the executive order. And then finally, it rescinded President Biden's executive order promoting access to voting. On the next page, and I'll open this up to questions after I give you a little overview on both of these, because the next one is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which was passed by Congress on a close vote, 220 to 208, and it will face challenges in the state because it needs 60 senators to pass. But anything is possible, and so it's being very closely monitored, and it will be debated within the next week or two, I believe, at the Senate level. Just giving both sides of the equation. It aims to ensure only U.S. citizens vote, strengthening election integrity. And the critics' viewpoint, as we've said before, it's seen as voter suppression measure that could disenfranchise eligible voters lacking the specific documents. You know, basically, the impacts here are not only to the voting public, but also to the election officials. And of course, there's just like the executive order, which this basically codifies many aspects of the the executive order. Again, the increased administrative burden, as I've mentioned, changes to voter registration systems definitely would impact and could eliminate online mail-in and automatic voter registration because of the requirements that are put into the legislation that make it very difficult. You know, one of the provisions is, you know, we have to accept ballots only through election day. We cannot accept ballots after election day. So the process that we have right now in California of E+7, where a ballot can be mailed on election day and received 7 days thereafter, that would not be permissible. The process that we have for curing our ballots, it goes 28 days after election day before we certify an election. That too would not be allowed. So it really imposes certain restrictions in a vote by mail model like we have that would significantly change the process as we see it, because all those ballots have to be in and ready to count on election day. I mentioned voter roll maintenance, same thing as the executive order. And, you know, the big challenge we have is, as the order was written, it became effective on April 4th, and within 30 days thereafter, the EAC, the Elections Assistance Commission, will be issuing certain guidelines on the forms that need to be used for documentary citizenship status and some of the areas with respect to technology requirements. And that starts April 4th. So within 30 days, we have to start making adjustments to our systems, which is very difficult given the lack of clarity on some of the areas and just the, you know, just the physical limitations of actually implementing many of these provisions. So that creates a lot of uncertainty and creates a lot of confusion, not only with the voter, but also with elections officials. Hence, you know, the reason we have several lawsuits that are being filed. And that's the next page. San Mateo County has filed an amicus brief in support of the Public Rights Project litigation. There's a multi-state lawsuit led by California and Nevada in Massachusetts right now in one of those district courts over there. There's a Democratic National Committee lawsuit. There's Voting and Civil Rights Organizations lawsuit, Citizens Defending Freedom lawsuit in Florida, and Judicial Watch lawsuits in California. And interesting, you have an array here of these lawsuits, some in support and some obviously opposed to the legislation. But there is a lot of litigation going on. And ultimately, when you have an issue of this nature, where you have the executive branch, you have Congress, and you have states' rights, that's going to be resolved by the United States Supreme Court. And so that's where all this is going. When it will get there, probably will take a little bit of time, which stays this order for a while. But there is a lot going on right now, and the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors has taken an active role in that process in terms of filing the amicus brief in support of opposing that legislation and also the executive order. On that note, I'm going to stop before I get into state legislative bills, just to give you an overview of what's out there. But I'm going to stop to see if there's any questions anybody might have on that. On the executive order, the SAFE Act, etc. And if you don't, you can feel free to ask at any time or give us a call on it. There are over 68 there are over 68 bills right now before the state legislative process. These are priority election bills that handle everything from the official canvass, handling democratic data, elections voter registration, the official canvassing, satellites office, vote by mail, Voters' Choice Act, voter education and outreach. I mean, it is a plethora of legislation, and there are 18 priority bills that we're following, and these are them at this juncture. And they will have their own course that they have to take to get approved. But right now, everything is in abeyance as it goes through that process. But CACEO, the California Association of Election Officials and County Clerks, is monitoring this, their legislative committee, and there are 68 bills out there that are impacting elections, and they've determined these 18 as priority legislative bills. And that's it. So if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to give me a call, or you can feel free to ask at any time. Thank you.
I have one quick question, Jim, because the other thing that I ever heard about is, there was AB 25, which was very similar to the SAVE Act that did die in committee, but the same legislator, DeMaio, is now trying to get an initiative, gather signatures for an initiative to get a proposition on the ballot that would basically do the same things that AB 25, which again is similar to the SAVE Act, was trying to do. Or do you know anything more about that?
I don't know. Hillary is on the line, and she handles petitions that come in from the state. Do you have any information on that, Hillary, during this meeting?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
So basically, Hillary, it's about the AB 25, which was died in committee, but the sponsor, Assemblyman DeMaio, is now pushing through his organization Reform California to try to get a proposition on the 2026 ballot that essentially would have the same issues that were, or the same requirements that were in the AB 25 legislation, which is very similar to the SAVE Act. And I was just wondering if you know anything more about that initiative.
No, I haven't seen it. I keep an eye, check every couple of months on the Secretary of State's website on initiatives. There's like 2 of them up there right now. One for something about splitting California up, or no, secession. I think it's a secession petition. And then we just got another one the other day, but nothing.
Okay. Well,
And I
they've
haven't
just
seen
started
anything on the
collecting
horizon.
signatures, so it hasn't even qualified. But
Okay.
so that's something you may want to keep keep an eye out for, because it's pretty much what they weren't able to get done through AB 25, they're trying to do through this initiative.
Okay. Great. We love initiatives. All right.
Thanks, Hillary.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions for, okay, I see Donna has her hand raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, thank you, Jim, for your report. It's kind of it's very disturbing. Until these priority bills are approved, we still follow the laws that are on the books now. That's my question. You're on mute. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Absolutely, yes. And that's our job here at elections, is to basically make sure we perform a ministerial function. There are laws that are in place, and our job is to follow those laws until they are changed. Nothing changes until a law is adopted.
I see a question in the chat from Betsy Colby. I think you might have answered this, Jim, but do you think voters that are already registered would be impacted by this citizenship requirement? So do you have to go back to people that are already registered?
Yes, as written, it appears that the local election officials will have to determine the citizenship status of every registered voter, whether registered or in the process of being registered.
Okay.
And therein lies a huge administrative burden, huge, unfunded, and it would require hiring quite a few people just to be able to do that.
Okay. So last chance to ask any questions of Jim before we let him go on with his day.
I have a question, Diane. Jim, there seems to be a lot changing and everything's moving so fast. I know for myself, it's hard to keep up with everything that's coming out. Is there a way that you're communicating this with folks, or that we can work together to communicate what's happening at a local level at your office to the folks at the VEOAC during the summer break?
Sure. First of all, it's all at the policy level at this juncture. As I mentioned, the elections office basically administers the laws that are followed and that are basically in place, and we follow those laws. As this evolves, it's really being, at this juncture, being driven by San Mateo County Board of Supervisors with their support of the litigation that's going on. That is a policy decision. It was covered at the board meeting. They had an executive session at the last meeting, and they supported that. As this evolves, there will be more information, and as that information is provided, we'll make sure that you get it. But it's not necessarily coming from our office at this juncture, because what we're dealing with is a political policy issue, and that is driven by the policymakers of this county, which is the Board of Supervisors and Mr. Church.
Okay.
When we hear something, but to answer your question, when we hear something, we'll make sure that you'll get the information.
And how are you communicating that, just so we're aware?
If there's a major change that is coming down, we will send you both you, the VEOAC, and our citizen advisory committees. We would let you know that there's a major change coming down with the Voters' Choice Act, or an implementation of a particular provision of the law. And I'm talking now more about the federal executive order and the SAFE Act. When that happens, there will be press releases, there will be information. So you'll probably get in the form of a press release and a communication that would describe the action that's being taken.
I see. Okay, that's helpful. And please think of us at Thrive to be able to disseminate some of that information to the folks on the call and other people. I just think it's really important. A lot changing, and I know it's like on a personal level, it's just a lot to keep track of. But if we work together, maybe we can build a system where we're all, and this kind of goes out for everyone. You know, if you're seeing something and we haven't talked about it in another space or here, let us know. We'd be happy to continue the conversation, let folks know what's going on, because I myself feel like things are changing so fast, and we need to work together to keep up with what's happening at all levels, whether it's federal, state, or county.
And that's a very, very good point, because your role here with San Mateo County Registration and Elections Division is to perform voter education and outreach, to assist voters and to vote and to become informed voters. So it's important that you receive that information. But we're having in this era that we're in right now a tremendous challenge with the assault on all mail ballot elections, for example, in California, and the way we do business in California, and also in other areas of the state. And the impact is that it is going to potentially disenfranchise millions of voters across the nation and in California. Many of these provisions would, the documentary proof of citizenship status, for example, will prove difficult for many to have on election day or to register to vote. That's quite different than, for example, in California, where we have conditional voter registration, that you can actually register to vote and vote on the same day, right? And you attest to your citizenship status. Of course, we verify that through a Cal validator after the fact, and then the vote would count. But those types of programs would be illegal under the executive order. So that has a tremendous impact on disenfranchising potential voters. It'll have an impact on voter turnout, the percentage of voter turnouts. It will probably have, it could have a disproportionate impact on minority voters, folks that youth, seniors that traditionally have not voted in the past. So there's some challenges that are looming out there that we're going to need to address in one way or the other, and it'll be through increased voter education and outreach. That was one of the things that the Secretary of State mentioned at the last meeting that they held with election officials throughout the state of California, that there's going to have to be an intensive outreach program to educate the voters, because there's a change. And there's going to have to be a pretty intensive outreach program to educate election officials, because there's a lot of gaps here, that we don't have answers to right now. So there is going to be a very significant role for voter education and outreach in this process.
Yeah. And this is an invitation to your office, Jim, and to you to think of us as a partner, to keep us in the loop, keep us informed, keep us accountable, right? To disseminate this information, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of barriers, as you mentioned, and we want to do our best to remove some of those barriers as best as we can.
Mhm.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah. Because one of the things that also doesn't get covered enough is the impact that the SAVE Act and the executive order would have on doing all of our voter outreach events for voter registration. That basically would pretty much be killed, because how many people come to an event with their birth certificate and their marriage license or whatever it is to prove that they're a citizen. So that's going to completely just eliminate all those sorts of outreach activities if this actually becomes law. The other thing is, I just want to mention that I'm going to put my email in the chat, but if you do have any questions about any legislation that you're worried about, or you're hearing something that's coming up that's new, please, you can send that to me, and I will be tracking that for the VEOAC as I have done in the past. And I will also stay in touch with the elections office directly. So I will put that in the chat right now, my email. So if you have any questions, just get in contact.
Thank you.
Okay, so any last questions? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Pam.
First of all, I just really appreciate all the information, Jim, that you've brought to us, and just being very candid with it. And my experience, in my life experience, this to me is clearly designed to eliminate as many voters as possible. And I see the role of VEOC is for us to develop messaging so that it's beginning now, that's in such a way as it dispels the fear around voting and is still encouraging people to participate in the system. And we know that we do have some challenges in several areas in San Mateo County where we already have low voter turnout, and also with some populations. So I personally am operating from the standpoint of, this is going to happen. What can I do to help my community to be prepared and still continue believing in the power of the vote?
To your point, Pam, the most important aspect of all of this in elections is transparency and information sharing.
Mhm.
People need to know. And the way you do that is through the network that we have right here at the VEOAC. We have a pretty good model and framework to get the information out, because an informed voter is going to be the key, not only to voter registration, but to voter turnout. And how do you get informed voters is to do the outreach that we've done. It may take a different angle, and it may not. I mean, again, there's litigation going on right now. Ultimately, it'll be determined by the Supreme Court. Some of the provisions may pass, some of them may not. But nonetheless, it's, as we've spoken with the elections staff, we need to be prepared no matter which way it goes, to be able to deal with any changes in the law in as positive a manner as we can. And key to that, and the Secretary of State spoke to that, will be voter education and outreach to explain. If there is a citizenship requirement, then we need to get that out to the voters, that this is what you need and this is how you get it and here's how we can help you get it. In other words, we actually deal with the challenge and we overcome it. So we'll see. We don't want to put the cart before the horse yet. What we do want to do is we want to be aware of what's on the horizon and be able to be prepared to take the necessary action that we need to, as you both have mentioned right now. And it's going to be voter education and outreach, it's making sure that you're well informed as to what's going on, and then in turn that goes out also into the community.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that we can do, even though we are in a blue state, is to contact our U.S. Senators Schiff and Padilla, and just, explain to them what the impact of this legislation and executive orders will have on voter turnout. So, and the more stories and specifics we can supply them with, then they can stand up in front of the Senate and talk about the real life consequences if any of this legislation becomes law.
Absolutely. And, we're really fortunate, for those of you that have been around a while, Senator Padilla was the California Secretary of State. And the California Voters' Choice Act started under his administration. And San Mateo County was the pilot project that started the California Voters' Choice Act, back in 2015. So if there's anybody that has his finger on the pulse and knows the impact of this legislation to the vote by mail model we have here in California, fortunately, it is Senator Padilla. However, that doesn't diminish the fact that we should be contacted, that we should be informing them of the concerns that the community has, so they in turn can carry that message forward when it gets to the Senate and maybe the Supreme.
Right. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to turn things over to Sky for the next item on the agenda to do the introduction.
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button for a sec. Yeah, next we're going towards a presentation from the County Civic Engagement Specialist, Eric Forgard, who runs a Civics 101 Academy that happens every fall, where they teach members of our community how our government functions. And there's a ton of different sort of specialists that come in and speak. If anyone is interested or know people that might be interested in this opportunity, you can reach out to Eric after this meeting. So I'm going to pop over to Eric's presentation here. And Eric, you in here? You want to introduce yourself real quick and let's get started?
Yeah, thank you, Sky, and thank you for having me. I'm pleased to follow my colleague, Mr. Irizarry. And so, yeah, we're gonna learn a little bit about the county structure today and cities versus counties and a variety of things. So I'll go through this presentation, and then after that, I'll pop onto the website and show you how to navigate to certain things. We'll just look at a few pages, and you'll also get a resources page after this. So you'll see the key links that we're going through here if you want to go back and double check these things. So yeah, just quickly, I have been with the county for 11 years. I was in the for-profit and nonprofit sector before that. I am in the county executive's office and enjoying it very much. I'm glad to be with the county, and happy to tell you a little more today about our county. At the end, we'll have time to take a few questions as well. So we'll hold those questions till the end, though. Okay, Sky, can you go next slide? Okay, thank you. I'm going to move something on my screen. Okay. So we'll go into these things a little bit more, but this is a simple graphic that gives a sense of the different governmental structures. So at the bottom, we have the federal government. That you could think of them as being at the top as well. So as it says there, they can do what they have been delegated to do by the Constitution and all its amendments. And then we see a state, and we see a little crossover there because there certainly is crossover. And the state is being asked to do a number of things from the federal government. And then it kind of rolls downhill. The state has certain goals that they want to accomplish, and they communicate and request and maybe demand sometimes things from counties. We do have 58 counties in this state, by the way, San Mateo County being one. And so we see a crossover on the graphic there. Cities we also see a crossover. And there are joint power authorities, JPAs, and special districts. I won't go into that too much, but there's joint power agreement is essentially, I don't know if I have an example here with me I can give you, but it can be partly from the city, partly with the county, and the intent is to provide services to people in a certain area, such as fire services, sewer, and other things as well. So that's kind of a special category, but those exist. And there's a couple of special districts as well, and those are essentially run by the state, even though they're in our county. And it's the same idea. How can we provide services to the people that need them? Next, well, let's see, and you'll see in the upper right here. So school districts, the county really does not have anything to do with school districts in terms of, telling them how to do what they do. Same thing with the community college districts and tribal nations. So there is some crossover, there is some communication there, but they are essentially handling their own business. So next slide, please. Just quickly, so there are 20 cities in the county. This is one of them. I think it's Burlingame. And quickly, we'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, so cities essentially do their own thing in terms of, they have police officers. They take care of the roads. They take care of sewers and whatnot. They can also, and they do, have taxes that the citizens need to pay. So in those 20 cities, they're essentially handling their own business. Outside of those cities, which means the unincorporated areas, and we're seeing a giant map here, which you can't read, it's too small probably, but 75% of the county is unincorporated, meaning the county is handling the same things I just mentioned. We have a big public works department, and et cetera, et cetera. And so we have a lot to handle. And if the cities need assistance, we are communicating with them and vice versa. And sometimes we do initiatives that essentially allow the public to be served well. But I just want to give you a sense of how much land really is under county control. So for the county, instead of police officers, we have sheriffs, and they're essentially doing the same thing. As a county, though, we run the jails, and that's common in counties. Yeah, let's go next slide. Don't want to drone on too long. There are a few of the, there are little dots on the map, but those are unincorporated areas as well, Broadmoor, Pescadero, etc. Okay, thanks, Scott. We do keep statistics, the state does, at the federal level they do, and we do as well. You can see some of the diversity here that we have, and the population as of the last census, as you can see, 764,442. Next slide. We are one of the wealthiest counties, and I don't have that slide in here to mean like, yay, us. The county is, I think, the second wealthiest in the state, but there's a huge disparity as well. We have both ends of the spectrum for sure, and we're, as a government, we're obviously very aware of that, and a lot of the programs and things we do are aimed at the people on the closer to the other side of the wealthy folks. Next slide. Go back one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is the navigation center. In for those in Redwood City, it's not far from the county jail, and it's not too far from county center. And this is, if you don't know, is transitional housing, temporary housing for those who are without homes. And it's a great resource. It's fairly new still, but it's really helping the county with one of the supervisor's goals, which is they would like to see the county at functional zero in terms of homelessness, which is a lofty goal, but we believe we can get there, and certainly very close anyway. So, so people that are needing places to live, we're able to connect with those people through some of our nonprofit partners, et cetera. And a number of them can have this option to come here. They get their own place to stay, they get food, and critically, they are getting assistance from counselors, and we can refer people in need to outside sources as well. Maybe there's a mental health issue, maybe there's other issues, and maybe they need help getting a job. So we can provide all those things. There's also a doctor on site. They can have doctor's visits and dental visits as well. So we're happy to be able to have this, and it won't be the last operation like this as well. Although I don't know the next one that's planned, but this is a beginning, and I'm sure there'll be more. Next slide. This is just a look inside one of the units there, and there's a refrigerator, a closet, things like that. Okay, county government. We'll get into that a little bit. We are a safety net. We are concerned with public safety, and we provide a number of municipal services like fixing the roads and sewers, the sheriff's office, et cetera, et cetera. We have many departments, and they all are focusing on essentially one thing, although they can be very complicated things. And there's a chief person at the helm of all those departments, and generally there's a number two as well. And the departments are overseen primarily by our county executive, Mike Callaghy, and in other counties, by the way, it might be called the county administrator. There can be different names, but essentially there's a two-pronged leadership, the board of supervisors and the chief executive in our case. We have around 6,000 employees. Some of them work only certain times of the year. And so there's a lot of people there. We see the budget, which is quite large. And it's large because there's a lot of things to do, a lot of programs we have, a lot of departments. We're trying to provide great services to people. Next slide. So here's the Board of Supervisors. There's 5 members, and there are throughout the state as well. You have to have an odd number so you can get things passed through by majority vote. And the supervisors among the departments, these are the ones, these are the elected officials. And there are 6 of them. In all the other departments, those people are hired and are overseen by the county executive. So we see Jim's department right up top there. We have the controller's office, the coroner, as you see, the district attorney, sheriff's office, and tax collector, treasurer. Next slide. County executive officer, Mike Callaghy. And you see some of the things, that's not a complete list of the departments, but those are some of the key things that he will oversee. Next slide. Health is by far our biggest department. I believe it's about more than 25,000. 25,000. Do I have that right? No, sorry. 2,500. Yeah, and so we have the San Mateo Medical Center, which is, the county runs that, and that's the place where if people can't afford to get health care, they will be seen there. No one is turned away. And they're providing a number of services. Health has many divisions: mental health, behavioral health and recovery we see here. So big department, and they're doing a lot of good. And as you might imagine, they were extremely busy during the COVID period. And they did a great job, I think, getting us through that. Next slide. Oh, here's a few more details here. A few more things they do. In-home care, obviously public health, that's COVID, that's measles, that's et cetera, et cetera. So obviously a big responsibility. Other things are emergency medical services, aging and adult services, environmental health. There are a lot of requirements for entities to maintain a healthy environment. Restaurant inspections, hazardous waste collection. So that falls under them. We see the hospital there, 228 beds. There are clinics throughout the county as well, 11 clinics. Next slide. Public assistance, the safety net services, really important part of what we do. The Human Services Agency, or the HSA as we call it on the inside, is doing a lot of that work. There's a lot of social service programs, employment services, as you can see, foster youth, child protective services falls under them, veterans. They can help people that need jobs get a start. And it may not be their dream job, but they can get into the door. And affordable housing will always be something very important in this county. And the Department of Housing does a great job in assisting those people and advocating for new housing units, which is difficult to do because you have developers, would like to make something that they can make a profit on, and we need more housing. So we have to kind of fight, in a sense, to be able to have enough construction done in an area where people can afford to live in this county. I think we're all aware the high prices there. So it's very difficult for those on the lower end of the income scale to live here. And as you know, many of them are moving inland or elsewhere because they can't afford to be here. So that will be an ongoing issue in this county for quite some time, but we're doing our best. Next slide. Public safety. So yeah, there's public safety communications, which is the 911 folks, and they're here in our regional operations center 24 hours a day and fielding a lot of calls, and they're a key part of our safety plans. We have the sheriff there. They're doing the law enforcement, court security. They're in court as well, and of course they're operating the jails. Probation department operates the juvenile hall, which is in Belmont, and justice. We have the DA's office, and we have a longtime district attorney in Steve Wagstaff. We have the private defenders, which is in most other jurisdictions is known as the public defender, as you might know it from watching Law and Order, something like that. But that's what they do. They are doing that, and on behalf of the county. They're not privately representing these clients. Emergency response and the coroner's office. They have for many years they have a very small operation, and they have a brand new headquarters which is great, really able to expand and provide high quality results. Next slide. Unincorporated areas. Again, that's what the county is handling, not a city outside the city. Municipal services, we talked about public works, roads, sewers, etc. Parks, they have their own parks. And the county has many parks as well, over 20. Planning and building, they have their own planning and building departments. We have ours here, of course, and that's for those who are doing projects in the unincorporated area. The project development unit is a relatively new unit, and they're just focusing on construction. We've had a lot of construction in recent years, especially at the county. Most recently, the building I'm sitting in now, which is 500 County Center. And happy to be here, by the way, along with my coworkers. We were in the Hall of Justice before, and most people couldn't see outside. So, you would go out the back door, maybe go into lunch, and maybe it's raining, maybe it's sunny. You didn't know. But now, so we're thrilled to have these high ceilings here and big windows. It's just a better working environment. And the building is made to last, I believe, 125 years, fire resistant, earthquake resistant. So it costs a lot of money, but what an investment for something that's going to last so long. Sustainability department, that's been around for about 11 years, I think, and we're really thinking about recycling and climate change and et cetera. And they do workshops, and they're doing a lot that we just weren't able to do before. Next slide. Budget. It's not everybody's favorite topic, but I just wanted to say a few words about it. We see that the most of that budget is coming through property taxes and sales taxes, as you know, and Jim knows and has surely talked about. So big budget, but we're trying to do a lot of things. So I just have some notes here. We have a 2-year budget cycle. It used to be 1 year. So, and the board in July, they tentatively approve a recommended budget, and that's based on their goals and their what they'd like to see done, with a lot of input from a lot of people, including publicly. They're talking about these things in board chambers. So they do a tentative budget, and then there is more conversation, adjustments, and then in September come the final hearings and revisions of the budget, and then it will be in place for 2 years. So that's the budget. Next slide. Okay, and just have some slides on the different sections of government. So here's the federal government. As you know, they've got a nationwide scope. All states, they have the structure of a legislative, executive, and judicial branch, and the state has that as well. And there we see some of the powers that they have there, and some examples of their services: defense, the postal service, national parks, currency. So they're thinking of things that go beyond state lines. They're not directly reaching down to the local level, but they are to the states. Next slide. So the state, we see they have a structure. They have a three-pronged structure as well, just like the federal government. And so they're handling, education, healthcare, public safety. Those are huge things that they are handling as a state, our state and others as well. Next slide. County government. So yeah, similar to the federal versus the state, if something is crossing boundaries, in our case, with cities, we'll determine who is handling what between us and the cities. But for things that don't cross those boundaries and are just in that large unincorporated area that we saw, that's all county. Road maintenance, public health, social services. Law enforcement, again, we have sheriffs in the county versus police in the cities, and we manage the county jails and the courts. Property taxes is we have the right and the necessity of having property taxes in order for us to operate and do what we do, and to handle public works, and other taxes, sales taxes, basically. It's basically property tax and sales tax, and Jim can correct me if I'm wrong, are the primary things that are funding our budget. And elections, of course. I know this group is interested in that, and you've become pretty knowledgeable in that, I imagine. So the county is handling that, not the cities. Next slide. Cities. So they essentially do as much as they can on their own to satisfy their residents. They have police, they have fire, utilities, sanitation, parks, and libraries. So there's county libraries, and there's some city libraries as well. So they have their own planning department, planning and zoning. And if you're not in a city, then you're coming to the county for that. Economic development, they're promoting their local businesses and fostering economic growth. They need money coming in order to provide the services that they do. They do their own public works. There we see parks and libraries again under culture and recreation. And they can enact their own laws. Next. Okay. So that's it for that. I know that was a bit of a whirlwind probably, but these slides will be made available to you along with some resources of some of the things that we're going to go through now. I'm gonna switch, and we'll take questions at the end, by the way. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. If you can bear with me. Are you seeing my screen yet?
We can see your email, Eric.
Okay. Let me get over to here. And just wanted to show folks a little bit about the website, just a few certain things. And we redid this, I guess it's been about 3 years or so now. And I believe that it's better. It's a little easier to get around than it used to be. And I'm doing this so, anyone that has questions can just look things up and find those answers fairly easily, I hope. So first of all, you can just do a search. You can go through, and we'll pop into these things. You can go through the kind of the structure of it and make your way to a department, but maybe you don't know what department it is. So, you know, you can here in the upper right, I don't know how well you're seeing this, but you can, let's see, what should I look up? How about foster youth? I'm gonna look up foster youth. And here we go. We get a list here of a lot of, you know, articles, pages, etc., which you can filter by department here. If you do know the department, you can filter it by department so you're not looking through as many things to try to find out what you need. So you can do searches in the upper right. And just going back to the home page, you can do the same thing right here in the middle of the page. We have a few things here, property taxes, building permits. The things that are here are the things that are most commonly searched for. So we added these tabs here. Going back to the top, we see there's news here. If I click on news, and that's coming out of my department, I'm in the communications department. Most things are coming, well, I shouldn't say most things. Many things are coming out of our department. They're coming out of other departments too, when they are writing articles or pieces and they want to share that with the public. So when I clicked on news there, it takes us here to the newsroom. And this was an event from a couple days ago at the event center. One of my colleagues, Marshall, wrote an article about it. So you get a little piece of it there, and then you can learn more, and you go here and you can see the full article about that. Okay, let me go back to the homepage. You can also see the latest news down here. I'm just scrolling down the homepage, so you can get to the latest stuff here. And when you click, you can get in and see those articles. A little farther, here's a few more things of interest and Board of Supervisors. We're going to pop into their page in a moment. We talk about equity here, sustainability, Measure K. If you want to learn more about those things, you can pop in there. And here's some upcoming meetings. And you can subscribe to things that you are interested in. I'm not going to go in today due to time, but this is right at the bottom of the page, and you can subscribe to things that are interesting to you. And I think there might be 25 to 30 different things that you can subscribe to. And you won't get bombarded with spam, by the way, or things that aren't what you requested in the area you're interested in. And just going to the very bottom, we do have our social media links here. And it's really a good way to get the latest on certain things, to get just like it is, outside the county. It's a good way to get some, immediate information about things that are coming up. And so I always encourage people to join the ones that they would like. Nextdoor has turned out to be a really big one for us. I think most people follow us through Nextdoor, but we do have those other options as well. Okay, I mentioned the supervisor, so I'm going to go in there, and this link, you can find it pretty easily because it's right here on the upper right of the homepage at smcgov.org. But it'll be on that resource page too, where you can go directly to this page. 5 supervisors, just like every other county, and they're elected every 4 years. And they're each handling a district. And they need to live in that district and be a registered voter, by the way, in order to do this. If you're interested in board meetings, you can, of course, come in person here at 500 County Center to the board chambers. Essentially, meetings are every 2 weeks, but there are breaks like in the fall, and sometimes meetings are rescheduled. But you can see what's going on here. The board calendar is here, the board meeting agenda. So you can see, let me pop into here, board meeting agenda. What do we have here? Okay. So the next meeting is tomorrow, if my math is right, or is it in 2 days? It's 1st of May. You see where it is. Meeting details, I'm just going to pop in there so the public can do this. They can, it's nice that we have this option now. You can join via Zoom. That's one of the good things, maybe one of the few good things from the pandemic. You used to have to show up in person. And if it was super crowded, you might get shut out. So we'll see a few of the items here that are happening. That's the board calendar. I want to get this out of the way. So yeah, so you look at the agenda, see when they are, look at the agendas, and if you want to join, you can do that remotely, which is nice these days. And you can ask questions. As you know, if you in person, there is a period where the public can comment, and they have a minute to say what they have to say. Typically, that has something to do with something on the agenda that day. And sometimes public comment is taken not just at the beginning, but when an item that people want to speak on comes up, before the supervisors start discussing it, there is a call for public comment. And even if you're joining remotely, you can make your public comments. It's really the same. I think we've worked that out pretty well for people to join. If you wonder what district you're in, this is just to reset for a moment. This is the regular Board of Supervisors page. Scrolling down, you can get information about board meetings. Find your district. You might wonder who your supervisor is. I'm going to put in an address here. But city, and it tells me who it's a place I used to live. It tells me who my supervisor is. In this case, Supervisor Lisa Gaucher, and District 4. So I encourage people in this group and others to just know who your supervisor is. That may come in handy someday. You can contact their office. You see there's the phone number, there's an email. Each supervisor has a staff of typically 3 or 4 people to assist them. So if you have questions or concerns, they're a great resource, or if you're having trouble getting some action done on something, and you suspect a little prodding might help, you can contact the supervisor and maybe and go from there. Tell them your situation. They're there to help their constituents. All right, let's see. I want to show you a couple more pages before we close. Sky mentioned at the beginning the Civics 101 Academy, which I host. And so let's just look at this page for a moment. But basically, it's for residents. It's very easy to qualify to get into the Civics 101 Academy. And it starts with just your interest about learning more about the county. But you need to live in the county or work in the county and be at least 18 years old. So that's it. And what it is we meet 9 times on 9 Wednesday evenings, starting in early September. And we go till essentially early October. So it's one night a week. Refreshments are served, and you're hearing, Civics 101 is it's a catchy name. We're not really teaching civics per se, but you're learning all about the county, since that's our specialty. And I'm just going down. I have last year's program here, and it will be similar this coming fall as it is here. So you're hearing from county leaders. When we start off with County Executive Mike Callaghy, then you hear from my boss, Communications Chief Michelle Duran. And then last year, at this point, we heard from 911 Dispatch, which is just upstairs. We didn't get a chance to tour last year, but I hope to be able to do it this year. And the presentations are about 30 minutes long, generally with slides, and we share those slides, and they're at the bottom of this page. Actually, we'll take a peek. So if you didn't take good notes, or if you weren't able to be there, you can look at the slides. That said, the slides are really designed to accompany the speaker in the room, not to teach you about something from A to Z. But we have them. So yeah, we'll hear from County Health, HSA, and all about money, which includes the budget and other items. It also includes Mr. Irizarry, typically, who gives a great overview and digs deep into the elections. And county justice system, we have a little mock trial, and we hear from these are the judges, district attorney, private defender, probation chief. That's what makes up our justice system. So we hear from all of them, and they work with each other a lot, and they get along well. But they're ready to gently fight for their side, and in keeping with their ethics and what their goals are. So, et cetera. We hear from sustainability. We hear about Measure K, which is the half-cent sales tax that the voters approved a few years back, which extended Measure A, which was the same thing. So, but with that half cent, it certainly adds up to approximately $80 million a year. And with that money, the board can direct it to whatever the most critical thing is at the time, or really it's at their discretion. So it's kind of outside the usual system of, studies and hearing from the public and whatnot. They can put this toward the most immediate need without having to wait. We hear from the sheriff's office, and we meet one of the canine dogs, and they do a little demonstration. So we try to have some fun, and you learn a lot about the county. There are questions. There's Q&A after each presentation. We try to go to, we haven't been able to do it every year, but we try to do a jail tour of the Redwood City County Jail, McGuire. We do, to learn about the park system, we do a hike for the people that would like to go. It's kind of an optional one, and it's on the weekend. So we learned about, we went to the mosquito control district last time and learned about the fascinating world of mosquitoes, which is kind of fascinating, actually. So that's what that is. And so I encourage everyone who's in this group, and really anyone, to sign up for Civics 101 if they would find that interesting. And again, it happens in the fall. I'm just going to go down here a little bit. Here's me and my email address. That's also in the resources page that you're going to get. So anyone who's interested in the group, and any of their friends, they just contact me at this email address, and I will put you on the interested list. And in a couple of months, I will send out this very simple application that we use. And the reason we don't take applications all year leading up to it is that we found pretty quickly that some people would sign up maybe in January, but then life happens and they change, they move away, they can't do it. So we try to get a little bit closer to the date, the starting date, to make sure that people are going to factor it into their calendars. Last thing on the bottom here, there are some related documents here. So mostly these are the presentations that were given in class. And so people can take their time and read through, try to solidify it in their head. There's also some additional things that were not just presentations. There's a really good sheriff's video about their community outreach folks, for example. So, and I leave all those things there so people will get a sense for this coming year what it's going to be like. Let's see. Did I have one other thing to go to? I don't know. I don't know how we're doing on time.
We're doing good on time, Eric.
Okay.
Are there any questions in the chat at the moment? Let's see. I haven't seen any. No, and then just know that you will receive Eric's presentation and a follow-up and a document that has some links to resources. As Eric mentioned, if you're interested in Civics 101, join the course where they can give you a overview in depth of each department and everything. Eric, I want to say, is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions. And by the way, happy to take questions after today. If anybody thinks of something, anyone in the group, I'm happy to give you the answer or track the right answer down.
Awesome. Well, I see no questions in the chat, and if anyone has any questions, come off mute now. As there are no questions, Eric, I want to say thank you for your time. If we can stop sharing screen, that would be helpful. We can see everyone in the room.
Okay.
So thank you for your time. This overview was something that was requested out of us on the January 29th session that we had with a few folks from this group. You all mentioned you wanted to hear a little bit more about civics. Unfortunately, we don't have the time and capacity to do a 9-month course like the one that Eric leads. It's 9 months, right?
9
Eric?
weeks, 9 weeks.
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
Not that
I'm
bad.
so sorry.
9 years.
But this is Eric is a resource now for you all. You have the web pages, you will have the recording as to where he was. If it was hard to follow the website that he was visiting, it's always in the recording, or you can follow up with any of us. We will provide all this on the follow-up. So we want to thank you, and we want to let you know that we're being intentional about the programming that we're providing here. And it's all based on the feedback that you all let us know back in January. So we're being thoughtful. If you have any other recommendations as to what you'd like to see in civic engagement spaces, VEOAC, let us know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So thank you, Eric, for being here, and thank you everyone else for making a commitment to VEOC. We know it's been a year, right, already. Well, it feels like a year-long thing since January, but personally, I know it's been a little hectic with everything going on. So I'd like to make time and space for you all to acknowledge all the hard work that you all have put in the past year or so, through elections, through this past couple of months. Just take the time to reflect and acknowledge what you've done for your community, and take the time to be in community this summer. If I don't hear from you for the rest of the summer, I want to say I hope you have a beautiful summer, and we will see you all at the next Civic Engagement Hub meeting. Diane, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't. I think you pretty much covered what I was going to. But yes, so look for some email from us in terms of the next Civic Engagement Hub, what we're going to be focused on. Again, we're targeting sometime in August, so keep an eye out. And everyone have a wonderful summer. Hang in there. Yeah, take care of yourselves. It's we've got a ways to go, but we'll make it through.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll keep working with the elections office through the
Mhm.
summer, and try to make any news or resources available to you all. So if we need to call up on this committee again during the summer, we might do that. But feel free to shoot us any questions or anything that we can help with. We're always here. Sky, Diane, Eric, Jim, we're all here for you all. So know that we're here. We're your team. We're your support. So let us know if there are any questions about what's going on in terms of elections. Great.